Hello, and good morning. As you've probably already heard, my name is Nathan Knutson, and today my sermon is entitled Nurturing Ourselves Through Ritual, Thoughts About Fat Bear Week. Much in the Unitarian Universalist tradition has been said about our ability to empower the collective good. We as a denomination have, in both past and present times, lent our support and abilities to seek an end to the plight of discrimination, secure a sustainable future for the planet, and protect those we love from unjust political policies. I'm not here today, however, to further rehash these great public moments of our denomination. Many of you have already heard these stories, and I think even more of you will probably continue to hear them again in the future. But while these stories are great and beautiful examples of our religious ancestors fighting for a better cause, we here in the present moment all too often neglect to consider how these much discussed figures were supported and nourished enough to take on these difficult tasks. So today, I'd like to turn inward with you all, examining how we, as individuals who come to make up this collective body, can find spiritual nourishment and personal fulfillment. I think a good place to start this inward look would be with a little bit of a story. During the summers in college, I worked as an environmental educator, mostly at the Bay Beach Wildlife Sanctuary in Green Bay. This entailed a variety of tasks, including creating educational exhibits, giving public lectures, and leading summer camps for young children. It was this last task, the leading of summer camps for young kids, which sticks with me the most as I look back on those summers and connect it with my work here today of delivering a sermon to you all. Each day, for a week at a time, campers would come to learn about animals, plants, or all sorts of other nature things. Being a specifically nature-based camp, we of course spent the majority of our time outside in the forested parts of our park. As we would head outside each morning, many of the kids would stray from our intended path to look at trees, bugs, squirrels, or anything else that caught their attention. This is a pretty typical happening, so us teachers would be sure to walk slowly so as not to lose anyone, but would otherwise just let the kids wander, watching as they explored and found excitement in their small slice of the world. After a few days, it was easy to notice how some kids went to the same spot as we walked along our path. Many would say hi to their favorite trees, look under the same log to see if something new had shown up since the time they checked the day before. This small act of curious repetition formed a sort of anchor for their days at camp, something they had created and were therefore in charge of doing. At the time, I didn't think much of it beyond the usual curiosity of small children. After all, who didn't have a special spot as a kid where they would repeatedly go to find or create something incredible from this strange thing we call reality? In reflection, however, after a few more years of my own spiritual discernment and learning, I have come to see what was truly being fulfilled with these actions of the kids at camp. They were creating and living out ritual in real time. With no prior direction or sense of requirement, the kids took on the task of crafting a meaningful and personal action that grounded their experience, gave purpose to part of their day, and helped them to connect with that which is at once within and beyond their own bodies. For those among us who have thought a lot about religion, ritual, or even the ways of small children, this is probably not much of a new revelation. But for me and my fraught history with ritual, it was a realization that fundamentally shifted how I have come to relate to these wide ideas we call religion and spirituality. To be completely honest, I still think of religious ritual as a bit of a strange concept. Here's the best definition that I have come up with. At a specific time, and possibly a specific place, a set of people, or maybe an individual, will repeat an action in order to find or connect to insight that is not normally encountered. I don't know about you, but I think that definition just about covers every action a human can possibly undertake, which doesn't really seem all that helpful. So maybe it's something we'll have to come back to think a little bit more about later. This so loosely defined, yet heavily leaned upon practice has been a sticking point for me when it comes to religion. While growing up in the Catholic Church, I encountered an untold amount of ritual. Everything from large holiday festivals to daily prayers were prescribed and ordered in a way that was meant to create a sort of structure for everyone in the community. While many people around me mentioned something about feeling comforted or some sort of sanctuary in these actions, I could never really seem to get the deeper meaning or really the point of it at all. And it was often described as something that I would just get one day when I'm older. Knowing that I was supposed to be experiencing something with each genuflection or rosary, yet failing to solidly grasp anything other than repetition, I was left with a sense of loss that I couldn't seem to find my way out of, no matter what other people said I should be doing or thinking or even feeling. And it was with that lingering sense of disconnection that I left the Catholic Church. For years afterward, I felt above the idea of ritual. After all, I had never experienced it really living up to its odd description or fulfilling some need I had in my constantly changing life. I too was strengthened in my determination to run away from ritual by the many other members of my generation who have also been choosing to distance themselves from traditional forms of religion at higher rates than have ever been seen before in history. That lonely feeling of being let down by an institution of billions is unsurprisingly all too common, as more information about the difficult history of religion is coupled with an ever-increasing sense of individualism within society. This is to say that a feeling of, or maybe even a desire for, personal recognition and individuality within our own lives is a pretty normal and worthy feeling to have when faced with a set of expectations and requirements that have failed so many people in the past. Unfortunately, as I'm sure some of you are coming to realize as I say these words out loud, there's a real danger of overcorrection in these kinds of situations. Because even with the best of intentions, we can easily come to overshoot our objective, ending up somewhere we never thought possible. In attempting to leave behind the actions and frameworks that no longer serve us, those of us who have left our familiar religious traditions can all too often end up in a place defined by emptiness, identifying with that which with we are not, instead of that with which we actually are. A space where the unacknowledged comforts and familiarities of the past have been shoved aside with little to meaningfully take their place. But there is still hope. I don't mean to sound too pessimistic about those among us who are currently feeling a bit lost, myself included. After all, I believe that one of the things we do best here in UU spaces is work together to actively create a brighter future out of the gloom of today. And it is with this idea of active creation that I want to think about a new possible future for ritual. A few years ago, taking a cue from the children I worked with in summer camp, I tried to create my own ritual as a way of learning how to redefine myself by what I am instead of what I am not. I offer it to you today not as an obligation or an assertion of what is right for everyone, but as a glimpse into what is possible and a recognition of the things I'm sure you are already doing to enrich your own life. Each year in autumn, there's a competition of sorts that I have turned to as ritual. Similar in style to the March Madness brackets we see each spring for college basketball, this competition lines up contenders to face off to see who will be crowned the greatest of their field. The contenders and the competition I'm talking about, however, have absolutely nothing to do with sports. I am talking instead about Fat Bear Week, a time each year when the public gets to vote on the bears from Alaska's Katmai National Park, who are bulking up for the winter, to see who will be crowned the biggest bear of the year. Many people participate in this time of celebration. There are posters, stickers, campaign slogans, and so much more that gets made by the fan sections who are fighting for their self-selected bear, to the point where it is almost more fun to watch the people instead of the bears themselves. While I have loved this competition for many years, it has only been in recent times that I've turned to ritualizing the whole proceedings. I now make a point every year of sitting down at my computer to carefully look at each of the bears who have been selected and watch as they grow bigger in anticipation of winter, checking in on them regularly. I do this not to decide who I'm going to support, but rather to simply recognize and be awed by the unstoppable natural cycles that take place regardless of whether people are there to witness them or not. I allow my attention to focus on these magnificent creatures and the work they are putting into surviving the winter's approaching chill, while my intentions find satisfaction in the remembrance of the world's continuous turning that brings about the changing of the seasons. In this act of balancing attention and intention, I come to find a solace that at once glorifies and challenges my individual presence in this space and time. This ritual doesn't really have much to do with anything. I simply like it enough to find deeper meaning in it. And it is with this sentiment that I want to offer you a new definition of ritual. Ritual can be anything that incorporates in equal measures a sense of play, innovation, intention, and attention. I believe we all can tap into and create fulfilling rituals that nourish our understanding of self while connecting us to all that happens outside of our limited scope of reality. It has been through connecting with my own sense of ritual that was modeled off the fun and enlightened methods of those children at nature camp that I have made a sort of new self-acceptance with religion, where now the need to do ritual things strictly correctly has no significance, and the pattern for my ritual actions needs to be only minutes instead of centuries old. Because in the end, the beauty and meaning that we create and observe today and every day is not simply a product of random chance or divine intervention. While there are many factors about reality we cannot control, and even less that we simply do not have the capacity to comprehend, what we do have is the power of ritual, which grounds us in our journey and supports us both as individuals and a community in our paths to create a better world. I'll leave you here in what I hope is a space of gentle discernment with the words of the poet Jared Anderson. People make meaning like bees make honey, gathering experiences and ideas like bits of nectar and synthesizing them into something new, rich, and uniquely ours. Respect the meaning you make, the family you choose, the wisdom you craft, sweet and golden on your tongue. Blessed be, and may it be so.